Hello, everybody, and welcome to Revit Pure Live. I am Nico, an architect, a BIM specialist, and the founder of the website Revit Pure. Revit Pure Live is a show where typically, at least, we help you become a better Revit user. In this case, we'll broaden the scope a little bit, and we'll look at BIM, more generally speaking, at AEC technology and entrepreneurship as well. And we've got a very special guest. Before moving on with the guest, first, I like to glance at the chat and seeing where people are from. We've got a phase out from Nigeria. We've got Faust from California, Derek from Victoria, BC, Alec from New Zealand, Diane from Belgium, many people from Uruguay supporting Team Slantis, North Idaho, and Patrick from Sweden, Paula from Argentina, Phil from Australia, Matt from Greenville, South Carolina. Keep saying where you're from. Always fascinated by it. Meanwhile, a couple of things to announce. In 2 weeks from now, exactly on February 22nd, which is also Wednesday, at 3 p.m., I'll be hosting a webinar. So not a YouTube live show. This is different. A webinar, you need to register. And the title of this webinar is Mastering Visibility and Graphics in Revit Families. I've been working with developing multiple families and been helping people solve their visibility issues, especially when it comes to nested families and embedding detail items, such as you can see in this Windows family. So I'll be hosting a 1-hour webinar. It's all free. You can register at revitpure.com/family-webinar, family-webinar, to receive the link for this special event. It's all free. It's going to last about an hour. You have to register to get the link. That's in exactly 2 weeks from now. And yeah, and the link is also in the description of this video. It's at revitpure.com/family-webinar. And let's announce the next guest of Revit Pure Live with Monica Greco. Monica works as a BIM manager at Max in New Zealand. And the title of our presentation is going to be about Revit add-ins and when is too much. So we're going to explore how many plugins are too much. And something interesting, just to tease you a little bit, she sent me this chart along it. And because we always recommend adding new plugins and but it turns out if you have too many of them, it can really slow down Revit. For example, Revit 2022, if you have no plugins at all installed, it took 40 seconds to open. But with every single one of these plugins installed and active, it took 3 minutes and 23 seconds to open. So quite a big difference. So Monica is going to come in and talk about how they deal with this issue at Max. So this is next week. This is going to be an evening session at 8 p.m. Again, that's next week. I will create the event soon and announce all the detail and the link. Oh, a lot of people watching live. That's great to know. We've got Jay, an Argentinian in Switzerland, people from Tampa, Montana, New York, other people from Uruguay. And we've got John Pearson from Design Tech Unraveled. Okay, so today's guest is Mercedes Carriquiry. She's currently based and originally from Montevideo in Uruguay. She graduated as an architect from the Universidad de la República in Uruguay in 2015. She also has a master's degree in architecture and environment that she earned in 2011 from the INSA Grenoble in France. She also attended the Fab Academy program at the MIT. Before that, she worked as an intern and project manager and architect at multiple firms, including Atelier Jean Nouvel in Paris. She is the original lead for Women in BIM since 2020. And in 2015, she co-founded Slantis with Andy Robert, and she's now the COO of the firm. So welcome to the show, Mercedes.
Thanks, Nico. You know more about me than I.
Yes, I hope that was precise and didn't make any mistake, by the way.
Incredibly precise.
Okay, good to know. Well, it's really nice to have you here. We've met at Autodesk University last fall, and you've talked to me about your business. And I was pretty fascinated by it, and it seems pretty unique. So I typically like to ask the same question to all my guests, which is, how did you get interested in BIM? In your case, how did you get interested in tech in the AEC world, more broadly speaking?
Um, I've always been very curious, and very curious, and I've always got bored very quickly. So at some point in my career, I kind of I step aside from architecture, and started to learn a little bit of coding, a little bit of electronics, and a little bit of parametric design, not necessarily in the architectural realm. So after that, when I got in contact with BIM, that was because of a client. A client asked for Revit documentation. It just clicked very fast for me, all the things that we could improve in our industry that were already happening in other industries. So I got in love with technology far before getting in love with technology in architecture.
Mm-hmm. And so was that when you said the client asked for BIM, was that before creating your firm, or it was
No,
when you
so
started?
no, it was when we started. So
Mm-hmm.
we started very small, and just working for the US. So that's what we did. And we did some drafting at the beginning because we were just exploring the market. And at some point, we had a client that asked for Revit. So we took a course. That's how we started. We took a very fast course. We were two or three at the time. We took a Revit course quite early in time. And quickly understood that we were not going to do any drafting at all, because it wasn't the way we believed things needed to be done. So after that, things escalated very quickly. We started going to conferences, getting to know people from the BIM community and the technology community in general, which are very open and always ready to help. So that was definitely a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard similar stories where I ask the question, how did you find BIM? But the question is that BIM found you, which actually sometimes coincidence.
It
It's the
does.
case for me, when I started as an architect, I never thought that I would get into BIM, but I've got sucked into it in many ways.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, it did fund us for sure. And again, I think technology was a passion before anything else. And the
Mm-hmm.
ability to be able to shape things or change how things are being done. Um, yeah.
All right. I think you have a few slides, so I would be really curious to hear more about the origins of Slantis and your
I
vision,
do.
which
Yeah.
is very unusual. So just by to get started, I know that I don't think you consider yourself like as a BIM consultant. Is that right? How would you best describe what Slantis does?
Um, I like to say we're a technology company,
Mm-hmm.
making technology happen for architecture firms. Yeah, we're not an architecture firm.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely not. We're a technology company,
Mm-hmm.
pushing the industry forward. Yeah, and that's
Cool.
what I think keeps me and keeps everybody going every single day. Like we're changing the industry one bite at a time, and we're very hungry, so we can. So yeah, that's where we're going.
Yeah, I like that. So now we can see your slides, and I know in the description you sent me, it was one bullet point. It was arch firm versus tech firm, and I was intrigued by it. So I'm curious to see what you have for us.
Sure. Yeah, so this is the title of what we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Slantis and what we do, just to bring everybody into the same page. But Nico, just it's a conversation, so just like interrupt and dive in deep,
Totally.
where whatever you want. Yeah, so the promise I'm making to you today is that I'm going to share as much as I can. So it would be a waterfall of true stories from our journey. And hopefully, so we're not going to get very technical, maybe just like oversee some things we do internally. But we're certainly going to dive into the soft side of BIM and how to foster a BIM culture and how to create the environment for a culture to flourish. Yeah, so good. So I'm going to be asking myself questions, unless you want to ask them.
No,
Um,
that's perfect. That's perfect.
um, Yeah, so we're around 50 people right now, and we've been doubling since the pandemic. So as I mentioned, we started with Andy in 2015 with a just small idea of working for abroad. And the pandemic proved that it was possible to work remote. And from our perspective, it did push many architecture firms to go remote or to go cloud-based. And we've been cloud-based since 2015. So when COVID hit, I remember we were going to fly to the US. And when COVID hit in Uruguay, we just like grabbed the whole team. We were around 10 or 12 people at the time. We got everybody together in a room and we said, grab your laptops, go home, grab your keyboards and stuff, and we'll keep working from home on Monday. And that's the only thing we had to do. While all of our clients, and I bet every company went through a struggle, like their technology department or their technology leads were helping everybody to set environments up and troubleshooting and all that, which was good because we were able to help many firms in their process. But it also proved that what we were doing was working. So then we got comments like, "We're like you right now. We use Zoom," or "We're like you right now," which was funny. But yeah, we've been doubling since. We plan to double this year as well. So yeah, we've gained momentum and are happy about that.
Well, congrats for the growth. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so probably not everybody knows us about like Slantis, because we used to be called Arc Sourcing, which is a very lame name in comparison to our current one. But the story is we started being a company with a horrible logo called Arc Sourcing, and we then rebranded a couple of times until we changed our name last year. And we did a big party. So what does Slantis mean, and why we changed that name? So Slantis is the world we're building. It has the slant in front of it, and Slantis means a world in which the slant pushes people to think forward and leans forward in order to explore new universes and create its own. So it's a world in which we create the rules that we think apply to the future. Yeah. How did we find the new name? And this is kind of a scoop. I don't think I've said it publicly. So GoDaddy helped. We were looking for a .com, and we were discussing on how much we wanted to spend on a .com, which people say are super expensive, and there's almost none. We were just like typing names. We typed slant because the slant was in our name from the very beginning, and there was a Slantis.com at $9.99. So we bought it, and that was it. I mean, sometimes you can build a story around something that really happened, but this is the plain truth. So yeah, and yeah, to wrap up, what do we do for a living? I like saying we make technology happen for architects, because it doesn't revolve only around a project. It revolves around the profession. So we like saying that clients, when they start working with us, they're a little bit flabby. And after completing a couple of projects with us, they get out with a six-pack or just fit, in terms of technology, of course. Specifically, we do architecture production and coordination. So everything that has to do with documentation for a project that is on schematic design and needs to be walked through construction documents and all the phases needed. Then BIM consulting and computational design from BIM standards or BIM standards improvement. So we have the standards, they don't work. It's a more strategic consultancy. Then computational design, just like complex geometries, which is not necessarily from the same BIM managers or skill sets. And then visualization. just like high-end visualization. On top of that, we work with just like startups that dive into modular construction or just like 3D printing. And it's a little bit of two worlds on the architecture side, on the fabrication side, and on the technology side. So we have a couple of teams that are working with that kind of companies. Yeah, so that's an overview. What's our culture like? Our culture has a name. It's called Slantiness. And it is, so our values, we reframed them last year. We did a collective exercise with the team. We reframed them, and they're collaborative, authentic, passionate, innovative, and courageous. And they show how we stand in front of any problem. Revit problem, architecture problem, just like life problem. And it really captures the spirit of everybody at Slantis, but like the problem solving spirit of everybody at Slantis too, which I think it's super different and characteristic on our culture. How does slantiness and tech savvy looks like? I can say a couple of observations. So we're very open-minded. We adapt. We're super incredibly flexible. To give you a sense of what that looks like, and you ask if Slantis was a firm or what was Slantis. Slantis, it's just an adapting body, an adapting organization. We just adapt to the industry and to what we think the industry needs. So usually architecture firms have one BIM manager and many non-BIM managers, and usually there's a line between like people that like technology in our profession and people that don't, or people that get along well with technology and people that don't, and that can be really frustrating for people that really want to make a dent in the profession. What we realized kind of early in our process is that there's no such division. And everybody needs to be able to laugh at BIM memes. And that not necessarily means you're a BIM expert or a BIM manager, but I mean, you need to get the sense of what technologies, what the trends are worldwide, and be able to be part of the cultural shift that technology is having in our profession. So even if you have different roles, and not everybody is a BIM manager for sure, everybody's BIM acquainted. And again, like I think the measurement can be you laugh at a BIM meme. And that shows how we've been adapting. So it wasn't how we started, it is how we are today, because we believe that's the only way. Like there's not a division between technology, friends with technology and non-friends with technology. Like the profession should be seen as a whole, and there should be no division. And then I think another thing that represents how our culture and technology savvy team works. It's we're synced and in tune, and everything we do is in order to be synced and in tune. And like if you go into something very specific, which is Revit, is like we're all collaborating on the same model in the cloud and just making sure that we are up to date with what the strategy, if we're publishing packages, if you're not, like you always know what's going on and how people are collaborating. So that approach, we take it not only into Revit, but into our whole company. So everything is linked, everything is connected. Like from our Notion wikis, we're very heavy in documenting. That's something that's not necessarily from our industry, but it's from the technology and just like software one. We're very heavy in documenting. We're very tidy when it comes to documenting and taking it very seriously. And then we link that, for example, into, I don't know, Revit plugin. So you know everything's connected and wired. Then we have a hot desk. So it's Le Hot Desk. We use Discourse for that. And again, like we have it's like an internal blog where everybody can just gets troubleshooting help with snips, and I cannot do this visibility stuff or whatever. So yeah, it's like, my point is, you may have a very solid team of BIM people or Revit people, but if the rest of them or even them don't know where to go for help, and you don't have a system in place for that, then you're missing some pieces of the puzzle for it to work. So this is one of our pieces. Yeah, data harvesting believers. We try to get as professional as we can, and try to learn from everything we've done. And that's not only in Revit, it is as a company in general. We try to be precise about what we learn from doing, and avoid being like, I think this is like this, I think this is like that. It's just like a process in which we're becoming more fine-tuned in understanding what we do and why things work and why things don't.
I do have a question for you for that. So
Sure.
you mentioned that you're using Notion are you using it for internal documentation, or is it something that you share with your clients as well?
That's a good question. So we have a Notion wiki for internal purposes, and do share some stuff with our clients. Right now, I'm saying it's a good question because right now we're in the process of understanding what we can provide, not only to our clients, but to the industry, for creating more community. So until now, like, many of the things we do are internal, mainly because we would need to curate them a little bit more for just like publishing them. But we do share some stuff with our clients, or just like some wikis with our clients, and we'll be eventually in the process of open sourcing some stuff. Yeah, we believe that's very important.
And what is this tool that I can see with the data harvesting?
Right now, so this one is Discord.
This is from Discord?
Yeah, no, so there's two companies which are called the same, like Discord and Discourse. This one is
okay.
Discourse.
Discourse.
So it's the one, so Rhino and their blog. I think it's the former one. So what is Discourse is like a platform for blogging, I would say, or more like QAQC. So you just like pay a monthly fee and have the opportunity of just like entering questions and answers. I can send you the link and you can put it in.
I think I found it. It's discourse.org.
Discourse, yes.
Yeah, there you
it's
go.
Not Discord.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can customize it. And so there's right now, we use it internally. We could potentially open it and use it as a Revit forum, or as a BIM forum for the world. Yeah, it's cool. You get like what items were most searched, what was the month in which they were more searched.
Yeah, I can see that John Pearson in the chat says the Dynamo forum is hosted on this Discourse. So
Dynamo forum too. It looks like, yeah, because you get customization. I think we stole it from Dynamo forum.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Yeah, but again, and then there's always room. We were talking about connections and stuff, and there's always room for lighthearted, way more. There's always, we believe, it's important to have space to play around. That's something that we create the space for too. Again, when I said like everybody should be able to laugh at memes, it's not only about the laugh, which counts, but it's about understanding. Instead of just like creating a line and saying like people that do BIM and people that don't, it's instead of finding a common ground in which everybody can laugh at something that doesn't work, even if they're tech savvy experts or not. So yeah, we do have some funny gigs with chiefs and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and lastly, I think we're like no other firm. Not because we're not a firm only, but and here's an experiment we did, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So this one was with DALL-E, but we did it with other AI generators just for fun, because again, I think they're good tools for having fun and understanding at least like what's the data out there. So if you type 50 people architecture office space, what you get is something that's quite expected. And believe me, up until now, we visit many architectural offices, and we weren't surprised by any of the outcomes. And the thing is, we're not entirely sure that kind of organization, spatial organization, fosters collaboration, and not in our era. So something that I think help us to be better at what we do is how we are organized. So I'm going to show you a couple of snips of our office, but the way in which we are organized and sit around the office and stuff, it's not like in square tables and stuff. We use pods mainly, and sit in a way in which you can not only connect with your team, but connect, like kind of cross-pollinate with other people that are working in other teams. And it is a very minor thing, but it was a string we pulled, and that made us wonder if it had an impact on the work we were producing. And it does. It does, and all of our offices are now like reconverted into pod areas, or just like this hexagonal flexible way of arranging pods.
So the picture we see is one of your office.
The picture you see is one of our offices. Okay. We'll be moving in 2 months to a new office, and I bet like we're going to be sharing a lot about that. So stay tuned for April 3rd. That's the date in which we'll be moving.
So your offices are the biggest one is in Montevideo, Uruguay, and you've got one in Argentina as well, or in Brazil?
Yes. No, so one in Argentina. So we have an office in Montevideo, one in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. And then we do have a small office in San Francisco, mainly for commercial purposes.
Cool.
Yeah, that's where we are. Yeah, Montevideo is our headquarters, for sure. I talked about the team participating in our value and our company values and stuff, and everybody has a say on what we do, because we believe the better we learn to collaborate, the more rapidly we can move, and the better we can provide the service we provide. So you asked about, we gave a talk at Harvard on this and how we were organizing, because I mean, you can imagine growth isn't easy and it needs a lot of organization, and you tend to get into the more structured type of organization. So we did give a talk at Harvard on this and on how we were organizing internally for producing architecture. And long story short, we went through all the AIA suggestions to organize an architectural firm or an architectural practice, and none of them was in line or in tune with technology and with the fact that very valuable people from our industry, they're not only architects, but they're coders, or they are data aficionados, or they are interested in content development and content organization. So what we came up is a way of organizing that absorbs the complexity that technology and the developments that we do asks for. So the Slantis ecosystem is an organizational system in which every part is as important as the other one, but they're different. And we did a very nice writing about it, in which we explained, like, imagine if the sun waits for the tree to grow and just like controls the tree so the tree can grow. Or imagine if the squirrel is just like making sure the sun is out every morning. So the squirrel won't be able to do what she needs to do in order to contribute to the ecosystem. So that I think depicts a little bit the spirit of how we are organized and how we collaborate with each other. It's not by controlling or over managing, but about making sure that everybody's committed to what they need to do and trust the other person. We really believe teamwork is rooted on trusting the other person that they're going to come up with their part. And it's very easy to say, it's very hard to accomplish, but we're convinced it is the way to go. And it has been working for us. So we're in the process of refining it and probably sharing so other people can organize the same way we do. So yeah, so I mean, this is just a scheme in which we explain we're organizing cells, and the connections between cells comes to a level of complexity that cannot be bounded to roles or cannot be bounded to like one type of tasks, but rather to a more complex set of functions that each cell and each person has. In order to make this kind of like tears apart the hierarchical pyramid and turns it into a more dynamic and cross-functional organization. So like it really gives the sense of how we collaborate.
Yeah, I have a question. How did you or your co-founders study business? I'm just wondering how you came up with this whole plan. Or
No,
maybe it'll help if you didn't.
Not formally. We did not formally, and it's a huge part of what we do. We read a lot, we study a lot, we get together with a lot of people that are not necessarily in our same industry. We learn a lot from tech. As I mentioned, when I studied digital fabrication, everything I learned was online and documented. So I could not believe, so I'm not going to be incendiary, but I could not believe that I had went like 9 years of my life to study architecture when a lot of information was already online. And I couldn't believe that there were like, and not every information is free, but the amount of information you have today and the reach and the access allows you to get as far as you want. Filtering it and getting to the right information is definitely another problem. But with Andy, we've been studying business a lot. We're learning a lot about it. Like none of us has any formal background in business. Now, Andy has studied a lot of marketing and sales. I had studied a lot of operations and innovation. And it takes a lot of discipline, and it takes a lot of commitment and willingness to do so. But anybody can do it. I always say opportunities are out there for everybody, and you have to take them.
And what are the best sources or the best books or the best podcasts that you found helpful when building the business?
Sure. I can recommend you some books. On organization, it's Organizing for Complexity. It's a really good book. I can send you the links and the names after this, but sure. Organizing for Complexity is a really good book. I'm not the kind of person that reads a lot of business books. I mean, I am the kind of person that reads a lot of business books, but I usually get a lot of inspiration from other areas. But on the business side, like From Zero to One is a really good book too. Not the typical one. From Zero to One, and Rework is another very good book. Authors are Jason Fried and David Hanneman.
Yeah, from
Basecamp.
Basecamp, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I really like the ideas. And then companies I think are doing great things. Atlassian, it's a very good company from Australia. They're the owners of Jira, Trello, Bitbucket. So Yeah, and then another book, it's not necessarily from the business side, but it's a book you recommend to everybody that likes technology and architecture because it makes a really good point in having a wide range of interests. The book is called Range, and its author's last name is Epstein,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I know about that one too.
yeah,
Range.
and like it explains like why people generalists trump or do well on a very specialized word. And it was a book that was in response to a book from Malcolm Gladwell. And in
Which
that
book
book,
from Malcolm Gladwell? Do you know?
no,
Is it
I don't
Outliers or
remember the
okay?
name. No, I don't remember the name. I remember seeing an interview in which they discuss, and Malcolm Gladwell, he's really good. He was
Mm-hmm.
touch, like because he just wrote a whole book in um stating
Specialization.
how
Yeah.
important specialization was. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, in that book, so it has nothing to do with BIM management or architecture or technology in general, but it just walks you through different type of professions and um different conclusions that the guy draws from many scientific Nobel Prize are also painters or also musicians. They're very well playing piano. And I think our industry has failed to um, kind of celebrate that because if you're not the typical architect or not the typical PAPM or whatever, you just don't have room in an architecture firm or in the industry. That's what many people are walking away from our industry. So I think everybody should read that book. Like not only people that love technology, but other people because it really explains how if you broaden your interest and you're able to apply knowledge from one area to another, um, amazing and serendipitous things happen. So that's a
Yeah.
really good. It's
Uh,
a
I've just put the book Range: Why Journalists Triumph in a Specialized Word.
yeah, that one.
Later, probably tomorrow, I'll try to find all the links to all these
Sure,
wonderful
I'm
books.
happy to send those.
Yeah, well,
Um,
everything you said kind of resonates with me as well. Even though I don't even have full-time employees, but I'm trying to build a business, and I didn't go to business school as well, so I'm trying to read books and get inspiration from anything really. So,
sure.
but
Um,
yeah, it's inspiring to see what you managed to build without any formal training, which I guess, especially the way that it seems so unique what you've built at Slantis, maybe it's better not to have been to business school even because you see it in such a unique way and different way. And I also think that architects, in a sense, it's almost like a business school. I mean, you have to create a project, you have to go in front of a jury, and you have to present it and to
it
sell
is a
it to
little
the
bit.
audience.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It is a little bit. I think we foster at least that entrepreneur vibe with
Hmm.
that you can do whatever you want. Um, Many people ask you like, what would you have said to you 5 years ago? Like if you had the chance to go back and tell yourself something, and m my response to that, and they asked for one word or something like that, and my response to that was just like go,
Hmm.
because um like I understand like the failing fast and like do fast and fail fast. I think like the difference is just like going for it and trying to do it, because if you cannot, then you will learn and build up on that. So it's not like recklessly going and trying to do anything, but framing the problem, understanding what you're trying to solve, and then start, because it does make the difference.
It does. It's
Uh,
good advice. So, advice to everybody watching this: start, go.
yeah, I don't know if it's wise, but it has been working for us.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, sure.
I mean, I hope it works for everybody. Um,
All right, I think you were almost done with the slides. Let's get back to it. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. It's been
I
fascinating
have
so
two
far.
more questions. They're only 10.
Hmm.
I thought we could tell you all a bit about how we make technology happen. And and know that we're a 50 people company. So it's not that we have a team of 10 people that are coding and are completely overhead. So again, like I think we're in a point in which we will eventually for sure, but we're not there. So how do you foster technology, and how do you create a space for somebody that want to grow in one direction, but we don't have right now the capacity to create a role for that person. So we have different functions within our technology cell. And I'm going to quickly go through all of them. So one is Slantis BIM strategy. This team, I love this team because they're called like the Marie Kondo of BIM. They're just like organize everything for the whole company, for our clients. Know that we have developed many clients in Slantis. They make sure the tools we use are properly used. Just to give an example, our marketing team uses Avail. So Avail, what I like about Avail, and I saw Randall's episode, what I like about them is that they target the problem in a way in which it's not only Revit based, but just like content based. So our marketing team or sales team, everybody uses tools that we use internally for production. Then coordination and collaboration. So mainly coordination and collaboration on just like interoperability and all that kind of stuff. Automation and product development, more on the software development side. Design technology, more on the complex geometry and again, interoperability side too. Then network growth opportunities, communications and connections. You don't want to silo anything. You just want it to permeate all over the organization. R&D, super small team, building it up. Data visualization, I said we are pushing our boundaries to understand the data we produce and we can learn from. And information technology, everything that has to do with infrastructure, hardware, cybersecurity and stuff. Again, this is not a huge team. We just like understood the different areas we wanted to develop, and like the way everybody got into the team that we're interested in is just like we did a Figma, and it was a just like open teamwork session, and everybody had to choose like 1, 2 tops depending on the role and stuff, areas they wanted to be part of, and it was very natural, but it just came up like different interests, different areas of impact, different ways in which people wanted to grow. So it's super basic. I'm not presenting anything that's rocket science. But I guess it just makes clear that it is possible without major resources or an immense team to start craft the technology road within a company. Yeah. And this is my last one. And we'll have time like to chat more extensively. You mentioned it. We met at AU last year in New Orleans. You were lucky to get one of our socks. And yeah, and I was one of, well, she's our BIM strategy leader. And yeah, and it was cool. I think it's cool to get together with people that are contributing to the community and contributing to the shift of the industry. So that's it.
Yeah, AU was really fun this year. I think maybe because it was virtual for a few years, so it was really fun to see everyone and see old faces and new faces alike last year event. Yeah, and I was struck by the socks. I thought it was a really cool gift. Each year I got so many T-shirts. I have like 10 T-shirts that I have to bring back home. Like socks. You know what? My socks are always break apart, and I always need new ones.
I hope these don't. They're good quality.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. That was super fascinating. I took a few notes, and I do have a few questions. So you mentioned that this is the Slantis culture is to try to dissolve the difference between a tech person and a non-tech person. Do you think this is something that could also apply to an average architecture firm or the architecture firm of the future? Do you think that's the way we're going towards?
For sure. I think something as an industry we've failed to do is to incorporate the technology understanding to different roles within an architecture firm. So the level of understanding of how technology works and shapes our industry needs to be understood by everybody. So it doesn't mean that you need to learn how to code, but it does mean that you need to be aware of the potential that has, because it is a little bit cruel, but apathy has been like taking our industry backwards somehow. And there's many good tools out there and there's many good initiatives, but in the end, implementation does not depend only on the tool. So what I think and what we will make possible for sure is that making technology understandable, accessible, and friendly to everybody in our industry will ultimately permeate and just eradicate many other discussions. So, like I'm gonna draw. I like to use a lot of analogies, and I joke at Slantis that I have one analogy per week. And one is the Nénuphar. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it. The Nénuphar.
Yeah, that's good.
So the flower that's floating on a pond. And when you see the problems when you're within our industry, you see many flowers or many leaves up in the water. But like if you do look closer, the root of those problems are only two. Even if you see many representations of the problem. So I think like erasing or just like for everybody in our industry to embrace the power of technology and how it can be helpful, it would be a game changer. Like, here's an example, concrete one. Not everybody at Slantis knows how to use Dynamo, but everybody knows its capabilities. So when they face a problem that can be solved through Dynamo, maybe they don't know if they can be solved through Dynamo or if it needs .NET or if it needs like a more complex framework, but they know a problem can be solved because we foster a lot the logical thinking and the understanding behind the scenes. So that's everything I want. Does it make sense?
It does. Sorry, trying to find the right thing. Okay. Yeah, completely. I love that Nénuphar. What how you say it in English? I'm not sure. It's you say it.
I got
how you
carried
say
away.
it in French anyway.
Lily pond.
Lily pond. Yeah, maybe.
Lily pond came out.
Yeah, but what are the biggest problems that you see? You work with a lot of firms and architecture firms. What are the most common problems? Well, if you follow kind of arch people on Twitter, or generally speaking, it's long hours, low pay, too much work and not enough time, low fees. Do you think that the lack technology is related to these issues?
I think those issues are part of the lily pond plans. Because I had a conversation with one of our clients in which they were profitable in their CDs and DDs phase, but they weren't profitable in the entitlement phase. And after going around the problem and wrapping our heads around the problem, we realized that there was a chasm and a big like pause and disconnection between what was planned on the feasibility study and then what was done on entitlements package. So if you could connect those two and just like treat them as as an only piece, probably you will be able to allocate your fees better. Not to mention like just like reusing things that you've done in the past and just like not doing the same things over and over again. But I think we're failing. We're looking again, another analogy. We're looking at the tree without seeing the whole forest. So I think it's more a question of understanding why entitlements are not being profitable and what we could do in order to make them profitable, because in the end architects work for developers and then it's all feasibility study and you just like see the problem of I need to deliver this in 2 weeks, and which is what you need to do for sure, but there's a bigger scope, and there's a bigger chain that led to that. So yeah, like I would say like technology education, or at least capabilities education, then unsiloing the process. On manufacturing too, it happens a lot. Just like building things that are not buildable.
I think it's lily pad is the word for Nénuphar, or water lily. It depends, maybe multiple options for it. Anyway, so a little tangent. We do have a question from Free Spyrex that says, ask, are your company deals with each employee's differences or ideas and find a common ground? And if you do find a common ground, do you implement it as company standard for best practices?
Our deals with each employee, sorry, I didn't get that one.
Our company deals with each employee differences.
Got you. Like, mean geographically?
Maybe conflicts or different ideas.
Did I get the question right? Like, if our deal with every employee is the same?
Well, how do you resolve conflicts between employees? Maybe you don't have a lot of that because you foster a strong culture.
I mean, conflict between employees, that's a good question. I mean, it's human nature. We try to foster, again, it's in our values, like courage. We try to foster courage between every team member at Slantis. So like we usually don't use like employee, non-employee, like we're all in the same boat. And there's hierarchy for sure, and there's different responsibilities for sure. But the courage, there's different accountability. So we make a difference between accountability and responsibility. So everybody is responsible for being here, for being courageous, for trying to find the best possible solution. It doesn't fall on, let's say, a PM's plate. It falls on the whole team and everybody. So when there's a conflict, like not need to specify the nature of the conflict, like we foster the conflict to be solved within the work team, whether it's a location conflict or whatever conflict, we foster that to happen. Sometimes it's not possible, for sure, but we foster autonomy rather than control and just like very rigid guidelines. So the most challenging part there is to give everybody the amount of freedom and the tools to be able to solve those conflicts. It is hard, and like we're learning at it. It's not like we're perfect, but we believe that's the way. There's a good book on that, which is called Reinventing Organization. It's from a French guy, Frédéric Laloux.
Reinventing Organizations.
Yeah, Frédéric Laloux.
Okay, it's in my list too. I took note on all of them.
Sure.
Okay, published in 2014. Okay, interesting. Okay, so we're getting close to 4 p.m. For me. I guess it might be 6 p.m. for you.
It's 6 p.m. for me.
I have an interesting question. Maybe we could close with that. is
Sure.
what do you think is going to be the impact of AI in our industry?
Um,
Have you played with it or explored it? Well, I see that you played with DAL-E for sure, but how is it
yeah,
going to impact architecture?
yeah. I think I think AI and current advances are a very fun tool to play with. Um, and I've certainly been playing with it even before DALL-E, even before ChatGPT, mainly with Google Colab and Midjourney and Runaway LM, like even before Midjourney. Um, I think um, we are somehow being fascinated by some new tools, which are definitely fascinating, but we are not understanding the complexity of our discipline and and how that interacts with the complexity of our discipline. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like I don't believe in AR and the power of it. Um, I just believe we're still amazed by the playfulness and the power of the tool and all that. And it will take some time. Like, see if if BIM wasn't yet embraced by the whole industry. So I think it will take some time on um, the people side for sure, and on the technology side too, in order to really get to a level in which the technology is actually doing something. But yeah, I mean, it's not it's not a super hopeful message, but like I I've been using it more for fun, and we have some
Hmm.
cool initiatives inside.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that there's more work to be done until it gets I mean, it's not magic, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's not magic. It's definitely an incredible tool for exploration, for sure. And it's an incredible tool for um, brainstorming and generating things from scratch. The fact that AI can now generate, it's on top of organizing data. It's fascinating for sure. But I think still like the gap between constructability and what we model, it's still too big to be tackled by
Hmm.
AI on its own, even if it's guided by human.
Yeah, well, there's
So
this
that's my take.
chart that we see sometimes of technology that there's that like at first when a new technology comes, there's initial super hype, which maybe we're in right now, and then there's a phase where it kind of goes down because there's not that much innovation. At some point, it comes back when it's mature enough, or at least there's software that actually use it in a way that makes sense for a specific
Yeah.
industry. So maybe it's still 5 years before, maybe less, I don't know, before AI is used properly in BIM software. Because
Yeah. And
yeah,
then,
I'm wondering if AI is gonna be different with what we saw with other tools like VR, for example, which was super hyped in 2016, which is really nice technology, but it there was certainly more of a hype 5 years ago, or a little more, or or in other sectors like crypto and Web3, which were extremely hyped and seems to have died down. So I'm wondering, is AI? Well, I think it's better and different, but it's still maybe still following this curve a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I only can tell what I've seen, but yeah,
Hmm.
I see it a very fun to play with tool, but it's still like our industry. I mean, it's incredibly complex. Like it's as complex as the automobile industry and aircraft industry. They're much more advanced than us. Like you haven't ever see a, I don't know, car that leaks. So so we have some time to get up to speed. But AI probably will help. It will not like shift the industry like that today. But I'm not
Yeah, who
I'm
knows?
not
Yeah,
an expert in AI. But yeah.
Let's see.
Um,
Yeah, I'm super interested as well, but I don't know how much it's gonna change our industry or not. Probably a little bit at least, but
you probably what?
it's probably gonna change the industry a little bit, but we'll see how much it will.
Yeah, I mean, for creatives, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I think we went through most questions. There's a question from someone about tips for scheduling in Revit. I would recommend the session that I did with Purvi Irwin. It was episode
Yeah.
4, I think. So I would recommend watching that one, Revit Pure Live, episode number 4. Type that on YouTube. Visiting tips from Purvi. Okay, I think we went through pretty much all questions. So let me jump back over here. Go back to a couple of. Okay, so the Revit Pure webinar that I'll be hosting February 22nd at 3 p.m. Eastern. So it's in exactly 2 weeks from now at revitpure.com/family-webinar, or you can find the link in the description of this video. It's not a YouTube live, so you have to register to get the Zoom link for this special event that's in 2 weeks. And the next episode of Revit Pure Live with next week at 8 p.m. It's an evening session from Monica Greco from New Zealand, and we'll be talking about how many add-ins are too much and managing add-ins so they don't slow down performance in Revit. Actually, it's funny, Mercedes. I just realized that last week I was with Nehama from Israel. This week you are from Uruguay. Next week it's with Monica from New Zealand. And final episode would be from Naveen from Canada. Just like, wow, pretty cool. All right, so I'm back to you. Any final words you want to share with the audience?
No, I wanted to thank the team that's back scenes on YouTube. Yeah, and I hope this was helpful for everybody. And I'm excited to be in the industry in the time in which we are. It's an exciting time to be here because we will be shifting what's coming next. So yeah, it's exciting to be here, and thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for accepting the invitation. That was super fascinating. I've learned a lot, and your vision for Slantis is truly amazing. So it's slantis.com, or is it you have to?
Yes, we've got the .com.
Slantis.com
www.
at $10 at GoDaddy.
It was $10. So do not trust when people say there's not a .com available.
All right. Well, thanks, Mercedes. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to all the slanters. Is that how you call them?
Yeah, slanters.
Thanks to all the slanters in the chat. They've been super active. Thanks for all the good questions. And see you next week at 8 p.m. with Monica Greco. We'll be live from New Zealand. So thanks, everybody, and see you. Bye.